think it's under 7 minutes. So after Mike Brown was murdered in 2014, I was incensed, and I wanted to see this congregation put up a Black Lives Matter banner as soon as humanly possible. If we weren't standing for that, what is even the point? Why are we doing this? But nothing really seemed to be moving in the congregation, and I didn't know how to make it happen. Over the summer and the fall of 2016, starting with the shootings of Anton Sterling and Philando Castile, that mood seemed to change. By that time, I was the president of the board here, and a member of the board who has 5 children of color talked about his fear for his children's well-being. There was more discussion about race in the congregation. We had some trainings from Reverend Rob Keithan, Reverend Rebecca Savage, and the follow-up was the beginning of the Racial Justice Steering Committee. The board started talking about hanging a banner, not because I put it on the agenda, out of the energy in the congregation. And as we inched closer to the 2016 election, even Black Lives Matter started to feel really insufficient. We were really taken with the rainbow banner that you probably saw on your way in that says, "Love is love, Black Lives Matter, climate change is real, no human being is illegal, women's rights are human rights, and all genders are whole, holy, and good." We thought about the process to make this happen, and we looked over our own governance. We discussed the possibility of a congregational vote, but it felt wrong. A predominantly white congregation voting on whether or not Black Lives Matter. Particularly because we wanted to be welcoming to people of color, this felt like it would be alienating and morally against what we wanted to do, and we felt there were other avenues under our governance. We consulted with different groups, and the elected leaders, the lay leaders, and the staff were all in agreement. It was important to state our values publicly. So in the fall of 2016, we announced our intention to hang the rainbow banner, and this produced some consternation. What do we mean we're announcing our intention? That is not a parliamentary procedure. In early 2017, we had a congregational meeting to discuss the banner. While I was the president, I hadn't yet presided over a congregational meeting. I didn't know what to expect, and it showed. And I was standing right here at this mic. The meeting was dominated by predominantly white men who'd been part of the congregation for a really long time. A member of the board who felt we weren't interpreting the governance correctly resigned publicly. It felt awful. As soon as it was over, I went to cry in the electrical closet over there next to the fire extinguisher. It was frustrating and embarrassing, and I felt hurt and angry. I felt especially betrayed by the board member who resigned, and I know he felt angry and betrayed too. And I was disappointed with the number of people who I felt wanted to use procedure to keep us from being a witness for our values, or who simply didn't understand why we felt a congregational vote was inappropriate. We regrouped at the next board meeting, where I faced our now 8-person board, and I said, that didn't go very well. We began to plan another meeting that was very different. We knew from the beginning that we wouldn't make any decisions or take any votes at this meeting. We planned to sit together at the front of the sanctuary, presenting a unified board that wouldn't speak much but would listen. We made a written statement about our understanding of the governance. We planned for time limits on remarks and for our members to only be permitted to speak once, unless everyone who wanted to speak had already had a chance. Meanwhile, we received a mountain of emails. Some were in favor, some were opposed, some had alternative ideas, some offered their support, some didn't understand why we wanted to do this as an act of witness. They argued that signs by the streets don't change people's minds, a premise I completely agree with, they don't. But witness is different. It isn't about changing minds. It's about speaking truth and holding space and naming our values publicly. It's about showing our neighbors who we are to invite them to be who they are with us. The second meeting had a whole different feel to it, not because everyone agreed, they did not, but people spoke thoughtfully. We listened without an intention to disagree, but with an intention to hear. A more diverse group of people spoke, their opinions were more varied, and And I felt really held and supported by the board and by the congregation in general. People felt more heard, even when we didn't agree. When we did finally hang the banner in September of 2017, we did so as a religious act. We invited Dr. Hope Johnson and Dr. Janice Marie Johnson, who are with us this morning and probably still here, I think, to lead our service. We had the banner hanging out in the Commons for several weeks beforehand so that people could get used to it before we put it on the road. And we marched together, holding the banner, out to Hunter Mill Road and placed the sign there as a ceremony and an act of witness. When I started, nothing was more important to me than getting this banner up. But as we progressed through the process, I found the banner mattered less and less to me. What I wanted was to be in a congregation that lived the values on the banner loudly and publicly. As we went through the process of hanging the banner and living with it out there on the road, we were growing and changing. We've had a much more active racial justice ministry. Folks in the community have stopped their cars to come in and talk to the staff about the banner. We've attracted some new people because now they know what we stand for. And on the whole, the new people have been more racially diverse than the congregation has been historically. We've hosted beloved conversations, panels on talking to kids about race, bystander intervention trainings. We've reached out to our neighbors, learning about the Black history of this area, and hosting Black-led art and education. Some of us were on the ground in Charlottesville. We're involved in designing programming with the county on dealing with acts of hate in the community. So in an attempt to tell the world who we are, we became something else. We were transformed. It was not as fast as I wanted. We still have plenty of room to grow. And I'm not saying this as a way of asking people to wait or slow down on racial justice. I think it's a dire emergency, and we need to work on it today, tomorrow, and what are you doing next week? Because I have stuff for us to do. But I'm suggesting that change doesn't always look the way we expect it to, not always a sign by the road, but the collective march that takes it there. Thank you.